It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, today we're going to talk about Toshiba Tec. You know, Toshiba, the conglomerate, they've kind of been figuring out what to do. Private equity tried to buy them. You got some investors in there screaming about, hey, you shouldn't let private equity buy you. Their management style could probably clean this thing up. So there's a lot of issues been going on over there at Toshiba. But in the Register, there's an article. They're talking about their latest decision to move forward. Folks, this is an interesting article. There's some things that are written in this article that should slap everybody that sells, supplies, and service print equipment, because they use some verbiage that's pretty aggressive. I mean, people yell at me sometimes, Ray, you're so aggressive. You know, you're talking about the death of print or something, and people are freaking out. You know, you did a video where CompTIA was throwing away their print management in the trash, and oh my God, the world's going to end. Folks, here's the reality. Our industry's in decline, and the OEMs are going to start repositioning themselves for relevance, right? We all know they have to do this. But during this process, there's going to be some really tough decisions that have to be made, and there's going to be changes. A while back, I did a video, and I talked about how long will Konica remain as one of the top 5 players that people talk about. When they talk about the 5 top players of OEMs, they always include Konica. I'm thinking Konica is getting ready to get kicked out of the 5 club, if you will. Kicked out of the 5 club. And what Toshiba does with Toshiba Tec could expedite them getting kicked off the 5 club. So without further ado, let's just jump in here and look at this article. Folks, you can find this stuff. It's all over the internet. But the Register, let me just read the headline. Toshiba decides 2 Shibas is the best strategy. Cans plan to create 3 Shiba. And so you're going to split it into 2. But folks, what they say about Toshiba Tec, I got to just pull this up. I'm going to have to get my Sharp Interactive board working here because I want you to listen to this and listen well. I'll probably underline it even though I highlighted it. Management listened and yesterday proposed a new plan. Toshiba Tec has been deemed non-core, and will be sold. So they've deemed Toshiba Tec non-core. Get it out of here. Let somebody else have it. And we want to focus on creating a new Toshiba in 2 different companies. You can't say that they're wrong. That's probably what they need to do. I agree with that assessment 100%. But what will they do with it and who will buy it? Because I put together some scenarios of potential buyers that could really change the dynamics of our industry. So without any further ado, I want to jump in there. And you know, there is one more slide I want to show you, part of this article. Let me read this to you because this is pretty interesting. It remains to be seen if the plan will satisfy investors, some of whom are known to believe that Toshiba is ripe for the ruthless style of decision-making often employed by private equity. So some of the shareholders are saying, look, we'd rather be sold to private equity because they know how to do things. They'll come in here and clean this thing up. They'll make those tough decisions that the legacy leadership just can't make. There's a lot of merit to that. Come on, folks. We all know it. You know, status quo is the killer that'll all be invented. A lot of times the leadership's kind of getting stale and stagnant. Private equity gets in there and boom, they shake stuff up, right? Well, folks, keeping that in mind, remember the video I did where I talked about Murakami, the activist investor with Isimo Capital that owns 19% of Rico and he owns 9.9% of Toshiba Conglomerate? I guess he could go over there and say, why don't you just give us the Toshiba Tec? We'll take that. You know, we'll take that. He goes over to his friends at Rico where he owns 19% of the company. Let's just go ahead and gobble up Toshiba Tec. So that's one, that's a probable outcome. That could happen, right? You see that. We also know that Toshiba one time sold off their PC business to our friends over at Sharp. So maybe it's probable they call up Sharp again. Hey, you bought some of our business. You want the rest of it? Real probable. But folks, I went ahead and put this slide together. I want to get my Sharp Interactive board working here because this is some interesting stuff as I started to kind of play around with this. Because here's the reality, and I know, let me just say this. If you work at Konica, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, because you probably get mad because I'm going to talk a little bit about Konica, how they're not making any money and how they're ripe for disruption. But during disruptive times, you know, you have to be a little bit aggressive. I mean, you go into the marketplace and you got to take out the competition, if you will, and sometimes that could be a little aggressive. But the OEMs are going to have to get aggressive, right? They're going to have to get aggressive. I mean, they need that ruthless style of private equity, right? Well, folks, Konica right now, I talked about them earlier this week, but let's just recap real quick. They're a $5.7 billion company in the print sector that we call home, right? The printers, the production print, IT services. That's a $5.7 billion business, okay? And right now, through 9 months in, they have zero operating profit. They're trying to get to a 1.3% operating profit. I don't even think they're going to get there. If they get there, well, they got there, but it's 1.3%. So are they right for someone to come in and shake things up against them and compete a little harder against them? Well, let me talk about some of that. Let's look at our friends over at Toshiba Tec, okay? And I've talked about this in detail before, but they have the retail solutions business and the workplace solutions. And the workplace solutions is that print business that we all know. Retail solutions, point of sale stuff. Okay, so this whole unit together is a $3.8 billion business. It's a $3.8 billion business, okay? By the way, they have a 3% operating profit. Of course, none of that operating profit's coming out of that workplace solutions, the print sector. None of that's coming out of there. But there's $3.8 billion worth of revenue funneling through these two organizations that are part of Toshiba Tec. What if Sharp actually got them? Our friends over at Sharp are $4.7 billion business. Okay? They're going to have a $208 million operating profit. And these, I just took their run rate. They didn't have their forecast for the whole year. I couldn't find that anywhere. So I just took what they've done through 9 months. Did a run rate. I put them at $4.7 billion for the year. I put their operating profit at $208 million. And if they went ahead and gobbled up the $3.8 billion business from Toshiba Tec, wouldn't they in fact kind of push Konica Minolta off the board of the Big Five? They'd have to be considered a Big Five at this point, wouldn't they? Now, could they clean this up? What could they do with this retail solutions business? Sharp has a pretty good retail business, right? They got retail business, then they got the place we all call home, that print business. But what could they do with this company? Do they have the right disciplines? Do they have the right fortitude? We know they got the money. Foxconn owns them. Could they clean up enough house to make it make sense? Because, it doesn't matter how much revenue you do, like our friends over at Konica. You can do all kinds of revenue, but if you don't make any money, that's not a good thing. You got to make money. But like I said, Toshiba and Sharp come together. That's a pretty big player in our space, folks. I mean, they'd be the size of Xerox at the end of the day. Now, let's take our friends over at Kyocera. Kyocera is $3.1 billion, okay? $3.1 billion. They have $286 million profits where they're going to come in. That's a 9.2% operating profit, folks. Those guys at Kyocera, they're doing a good job making money, okay? And that's in the business we all call them, the print business, okay? If they went over there and picked up Toshiba Tec, again, look how big they are. They knock Konica off the board of the major five. I'm telling you, folks, it's not going to be long before Konica Minolta, they don't turn this thing around. They're going to be considered like the tier 2 or 3 OEM. I mean, can you imagine the conversations and how they change if that happens? Why wouldn't these scenarios come true? I don't know. I think they're all probable. But Toshiba Tec, they do have some issues in the print sector. They're struggling making profit, just like our friends over at Konica are. But they do make profit in that retail business. Could somebody buy that thing up, spin off the retail business, clean up all the crap in the copier business, just buy the top off it, cut a whole bunch of expenses, continue to grab some of that revenue? There's all kinds of possibilities. Is it going to take ruthless style thinking to do it? Probably so. Can the leaders at Sharp and Kyocera do it? Well, they know how to make money. They know how to make money during COVID. They don't have all these excuses. They're actually making money. So, folks, it's going to be interesting ahead to see what happens. But bottom line is, this talk about Toshiba is going on a long time. And sooner or later, something's going to happen. But I'm kind of agreeing with those shareholders that think it's going to take the ruthless thinking of private equity. I hate to say it that way, but in all reality, these OEMs have been lollygagging around for like 2 years now, and something's got to give. Something's got to give. If you're waiting and you're building your army and your strategy and you're getting all your chess pieces together, like our friends could be doing at Kyocera or Sharp, at least they're making money while they're doing that. But bottom line is, you got to make money, and the pieces on the table are going to change, as they say. And everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.